And overall, we're hoping to have well over 500,000 students in the TVET system, which will show a growth, quite a significant growth in the numbers from 2025 and 2024, with over 500,000 students, 526,000, many of whom are supported through the NSFAS funding as well. What we are also having is around 170,000 new learners enrolled in the ministerially funded programs, which are the NCV and the Report 91 programs, and then in the centers of specialization for this year. And this shows a breakdown per province. This is the predicted enrollments for 2026. My colleagues will provide an update on where we are at in terms of the enrollments, but at most colleges, the academic year has already started. So these are the projected enrollments per province, and this obviously reflects the number of colleges and the number of spaces historically in those colleges. And it does show that we are really starting to grow the enrollments in TVET colleges in a way that is in line with our policy goals, albeit not as fast as we would want to grow. I'm not sure why the university slide suddenly comes up, but I will say that we have mostly talked to these issues. So I'm going to go through this, and this also talks to the enrollment planning process, which has been completed. And these are the F10 numbers. So I'm going to move beyond this. This actually it must have found its way in from an old presentation. Oh, is that the TVET presentation? Tembisa, acting DG, I can hand over to you because we're now talking about CET colleges.
Thank you very much, Prof, and thank you very much again, colleagues. And then I will take it from here, and then I will present on community colleges. If I can just indicate, Honorable Chair, honorable members, from the time that we submitted this presentation, there have been some developments, and doesn't take away from what we have submitted to the select committee. The community colleges opened on the 12th of January for administration, and 14th of January started in terms of registrations of students, and will continue up until the end of February. I am very pleased to indicate that classes have commenced in all our community colleges, and there has been relative calm in the sector in terms of the start of the academic year, except for challenges that we experienced in Limpopo due to the storms at the beginning of the year. We had 13 centers that were affected and therefore could not open with the rest of the community colleges, but those have subsequently reopened, and the matters of the damage related to those centers is currently being attended to. If I can be assisted with the movement of the slides. And apologies if there's interruption in terms of the noise, particularly the dogs barking in the background, as I've indicated. I'm in the animal hospital. In terms of the enrollments for the 2026 academic year, there is a target of 147 and 163. 147.
Sorry, Mr. Fuchane. Is it possible that you can try to move away from the people that are conversing behind you, because they are a little bit disrupting your presentation?
Thank you. I will try to do that. Just a second for me. Can I check, Chair, if it's a little bit better? Honorable Chair?
Yes, it's a little bit better now.
Sincere apologies for that. The targeted enrollments for the 2026 academic year is a total of 147,163 students. And as you can see from the graph, our highest enrollments are usually in Gauteng, and our lowest enrollments is Northern Cape. We are currently monitoring the enrollments on a weekly basis. Next slide, please. We've also looked at new available spaces, and this is extremely important, particularly in view of what role community colleges can play in accommodating the class of 2025. And in terms of that, we are in accommodating the class of 2025. In our academic programs, I must indicate that we work in collaboration with the Department of Basic Education, where we do accept students who want to improve their national senior certificate, those who may not have passed, or those who want to improve on their results. We accommodate them in our community colleges, particularly those who are in the age of 20 and above. We also have spaces for short skills programs, and these range from basic skills programs like welding, sewing, plumbing, cell phone repairs, and so forth, which is at entry-level skills programs. The numbers that you are seeing here is what colleges have indicated that they will be able to accommodate in terms of new students coming into the sector. Next slide, please. We do have a challenge in the sector of infrastructure. Must indicate that we have 9 community colleges, 1 per province. They have 1,791 centers where teaching and learning takes place, but 96% of those colleges are operating from DBE schools. Unfortunately, some of them are operating using a platooning system. But we are working on improving the city college infrastructure. We do have a 1 billion rand infrastructure grant that we have secured as the department internally from our departmental funds. And we are using those funds to have fit-for-purpose, standalone community college centers and trying to get them out of the DBE schools. In addition to that, there is a program that is led by our Honorable Minister, where we are working on a collaboration framework, and we're saying that it will be much better for the community colleges to operate from TVET colleges instead of operating from DBE schools. And that is also to assist with seamless articulation pathways. I am pleased to report, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, that we do have some of our community colleges already operating from TVET colleges, but it is not to the extent that we wish. We do have challenges of gadgets, we do have challenges of internet connectivity, but all of those in terms of our infrastructure challenges, it is a matter that we are attending to. Can we move to the next slide, please? These are talking in relation to infrastructure. I've spoken to internet connectivity. We do have ICT labs, as indicated here, and we also do have centers that have internet connectivity, but they are minimal. We are also not happy about the nature of the internet connectivity that we have. Hence, the department has recently appointed a CIO who is looking into improving the ICT infrastructure for the entire PSEC system, but also looking at improving ICT in our community colleges. Next slide, please. If we can run through this, because I've covered the issues of infrastructure, it just gives an indication of which colleges have their own centers and which colleges are sharing with DBE. As you can see indicated, the majority are sharing the infrastructure with DBE, with a minority of the centers having standalone centers. If we can move on, please. This is an indication of the staff that we have in the sector. We do have adequate staff in community colleges. The challenge that we have is that we do not necessarily have staff for certain learning areas. For an example, mathematics and physical science. We also need more staff members that can teach in Afrikaans. Those are some of the areas where we need to augment in terms of our human resource at our community colleges. Next slide, please. This is just an indication of the demographics of our staff members. We can move on to the next slide. It's an indication of the training that we do for our lecturers. What I want to emphasize on this slide is that we are repurposing our community colleges so that they don't only focus on academic programs, that we are retraining and reskilling the human resource that we have to be able to train on skills program. We currently have 46 QCTO accredited skills programs, and we are training our human resource in our community colleges to be able to train in these short skills programs. Next slide. This is just an indication of the academic year. It is aligned to the DBE academic year. And the reason for that is, as I've indicated earlier, that 96% of our community colleges are operating from DBE schools. We can continue. I think we are coming to an end. We rely on partnerships in terms of increasing student access. Let me also indicate, I've spoken to all of these matters, and as I close on my presentation, I just want to indicate one or two of the challenges that are facing the sector. One of them is that most of our students are facing food insecurity, and that is contributing negatively to the retention of our students. We don't retain students. Our dropout rates are very high. Also, some of our students struggle with transport costs, and that is because in the PSEC system, NSFAS is for university and TVET college students and not for community college students. But we are looking at interventions on how these students can be supported. There are partnerships that are led by Honorable Deputy Minister Dr. Gondwe, where we've already engaged with Pick n Pay, ShopRite, and Tiger Brands, where we can see how our students in community colleges can be assisted, particularly to assist them with food security. We are looking at a model where we can start with food banks at some of our centers, particularly those that are adversely affected. Next slide, please. This is for NSFAS. As I take a seat, Honorable Chair, let me also just report that since the beginning of the year, we've had two unfortunate incidences. One of them is that at Gauteng CET College, one of our students committed suicide. That was not related to the college issues, but it is one of our students, and it's an indication of the challenges that our students are facing, generally in life. We are assisted to a great extent by Higher Health in providing counseling to the family and the students. And last week, we had a terrible incident where one of our very young female students was raped at the center during orientation. So this happened within our premises. Again, Higher Health came on board in terms of counseling to the student. Unfortunately, the student had to be hospitalized because she attempted a suicide, but she is getting support. I have been in contact with the family. The principal has also been in contact with the family. And regrettably, the three male perpetrators are still at large. They have not been caught, but we are communicating with the police in terms of trying to find them. They are also students at the same center. Except for those unfortunate incidences, which are deeply regrettable, the sector is stable. Teaching and learning has commenced, and we are hoping for the best and supporting our community colleges to make sure that they are ready for the academic year. We have also disbursed all the funds that are required for them to commence for the academic year. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members.
Thanks, Acting DG. This is actually a slide for University Branch. Just to say that we are working on a fee regulatory framework which would regulate the increases in fees at universities. And it's something that we have had a social compact on in the sector since 2016. So it's now the 10th, 11th year of implementing this. But we are working towards a longer term fee framework that would allow us to be transparent about what tuition costs are, to a certain extent address some of the equalization or some of the gaps between the levels of tuition fees at different institutions, but also to make sure that tuition fees remain affordable or become, in some cases, more affordable for families and for the state in terms of the fact that we are supporting well over 60% of undergraduates. So this is a process that was being reported on, and it's something that we continue work on this year with the idea that we are developing a longer term fee regulatory situation in the system. At the moment, universities are highly dependent on tuition fees, and it's something that we that is likely to continue into the future. Um, Thanks. I think we're handing over to the acting executive for NSFAS, Wasim.
Thanks. Just give me 10 seconds.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, DDG, and greetings to the Honorable Chair and the Honorable members. I'll be taking members through the NSFAS presentation. My name is Wasim Karam. We followed quite a strict timetable as NSFAS for the 2026 academic year. Our applications opened on the 15th of September. They were open for a period of 2 months and closed on the 15th of November, 2025. Ours as NSFAS was really to try and improve our effectiveness and our efficiency as an organization, and to try and reduce the pressure and anxiety and the stress that students feel, both for first-time entering students as well as continuing students. Our continuing students, we are reliant on receiving results from institutions of higher learning. For the university sector, we receive results by the 15th of December, and we communicate whether students have met the academic progression criteria by the 31st of December 2025. So within 2 weeks. For the TVETs, we receive results by the 15th of January, and by the end of January, we inform TVET students about whether they have met the academic progression criteria. For first-time entering students, NSFAS completed its interim decisions on all funding decisions by the 31st of December as well, and we released NSFAS funding lists to all institutions of higher learning by the 2nd of January. This is for us really to target the matric results release, and that students should know their funding statuses before the matric results have been released here. Once the matric results are released, many students receive their university offer letters, and universities are in possession of the NSFAS funding list, which then enables them to be able to make their academic acceptance offers. We also see that after the matric results are released, students who don't get accepted to universities often start applying to TVETs. It's a scenario that we're working hard to change in future years. Unfortunately, everybody seems to treat TVET as a second option rather than applying directly to TVETs here. We then make an upfront payment to our universities on the 2nd of February, which we disbursed about 3.6 billion rand to the universities on the 2nd of Feb, and that's for them to release allowances to students. We know that the majority of our students come from marginalized, vulnerable, working class backgrounds, and us ensuring that they have allowances early in the year enables them to be able to purchase the necessities that they need and contributes to the stability of the start of the academic year. Apologies. We also do an upfront payment to our TVET colleges, but that's mainly for tuition for them to be able to run operationally effectively. We do 2 payment runs for TVET allowances. We did one on the 13th of February, covering about 52,000 TVET learners. We have another one scheduled for this Friday, which should cover the balance of our TVET learners. We'll also be doing a second university upfront payment next week, Monday, and that's just to preserve the stability of the academic year. Universities and TVET colleges both have until the 31st of March to upload data to our registration portal, which then will inform our disbursements for the remainder of the 2026 academic year. We can move on to the next slide. In total, we received for the 2026 academic year, we received about 890,000 total applications from students. Of that, about 670,000 students were approved for funding. Unfortunately, that does not represent students who will be accepted across both universities and TVET colleges. We only have about 350,000 first-time entering places. So unfortunately, a large proportion of those students will not receive a space at an institution of higher learning. Out of our continuing students, and I think this is quite positive in nature, we have about 426,000 university students who met the academic progression criteria, which is more than 80% of our students, which is really pleasing in nature. And in the TVET sector, about 136,000 students met the academic progression criteria as well, which showcases that NSFAS beneficiaries are performing both at universities and TVET colleges. We can move to the next slide. I think I've spoken to most of these dates, so we can move on. Now we can continue to move on. Yeah, I think we can move to. We have, as indicated, also had full-time deployments to institutions of higher learning during the registration period, both at university and TVET college level. We do understand that while NSFAS operates a mainly online system for applications and appeals, that students at time may need support in person with uploading outstanding documents, or they may need advice on closing dates. And therefore, we felt that both to support institutions as well as to support students, that we did need full-time deployments to institutions of higher learning. This is a temporary measure as NSFAS moves towards a decentralized model of having full-time staff members at all institutions of higher learning. We see this as a 2-year project, which we intend to conclude by the end of 2027 and really implement consolidated during 2026. We can move on. I think we've spoken to these dates already. I think one area that does attract a lot of attention in the NSFAS ecosystem is student accommodation, and I think it's important that we give the committee some context on student accommodation. Student accommodation pre-2023 used to be managed independently by institutions of higher learning, both universities and TVETs. NSFAS in the previous administration had taken a strategic decision to become more involved in the student accommodation space. There was also a decision to introduce the student accommodation cap across the country, which would regulate and inform NSFAS's budgetary requirements about what it was able and willing to pay for student accommodation in the country. There was also a change in the qualifying rate for student accommodation, whereas students previously used to reside 40 kilometers away from campus, or more than 40 kilometers to qualify for accommodation. That rate has been reduced to 10 kilometers, and it has had quite a major impact, both from a budget perspective as well as from a accommodation availability perspective. I think one of the things that the current NSFAS board would have picked up is that in NSFAS taking over accommodation, there was perhaps some degree of a lack of feasibility work, risk assessment, governance frameworks, and capacity building at NSFAS. I think student accommodation is a property management function, which requires quite in-depth property fund management knowledge, which capacity was not necessarily built. The two things that were undertaken during the 2025 academic year was that a mandatory student accommodation protocol was introduced to manage the policy issues associated with NSFAS beneficiaries. It was released for public comment. It received quite a considerable amount of public comment. We have made some adjustments to the protocol. There was a request from institutions to delay its implementation towards 2027. We will release a second version for consultation, and we aim to have a finalized protocol by about mid-2026. We also conducted a full-scale legal review of the student accommodation function, and we'll be presenting the outcomes of that legal review to the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training. In understanding the transitional nature of both the protocol as well as the legal review, we announced that for student accommodation for 2026, that institutions who did form part of the student accommodation project would remain so, and that institutions who are not on the accommodation project would remain off the project for 2026. We can move to the next slide. Similarly to how we've run a very tight timetable for the academic year, we've also run a similarly tight framework for student accommodation. And mainly our reason was that we would want a situation where we can predict when students would arrive at campuses so that they are either placed in temporary housing or they're being able to move into their required residences or private accommodation. And this would reduce the incidences of students being left homeless or being, left without accommodation as well. We can move on. I think two of the things that emanated from the NSFAS legal review into student accommodation indicated that for NSFAS to extricate itself from problematic contracts that it had been involved in for student accommodation, it would be required to build human resources support as well as technological resources to manage the student accommodation function. This needs to be considered in a wider decision about where the function for student accommodation should reside, about whether it should reside at NSFAS or whether it should reside at institutions of higher learning. And it strongly speaks to where we build capacity, skills, and technology for managing student accommodation into the future. And NSFAS is consulting on an ongoing basis with the Department of Higher Education and Training, as well as a number of external stakeholders on the best possible methodology to manage student accommodation. And of course, this also found expression during the State of the Nation address 2 weeks ago. Some of the elements that we have introduced to better manage student accommodation is strict adherence to the TVET calendar, acknowledging that we have differentiated streams for universities and TVETs, having clear communication between all stakeholders, students, institutions, and NSFAS, having a real-time system for onboarding of students between NSFAS institutions and students.
Recording stopped.
We can move to the next slide. Having enhanced student support and feedback mechanisms, using our 2025 data to accurately forecast 2026 accommodation needs, and having data-driven reporting and reconciliation to ensure that accommodation providers who provide a very important service are paid consistently and paid effectively. One of the key outcomes of the legal review is that NSFAS should not use third-party payment providers to execute payments for private accommodation providers. And NSFAS has undertaken that function from 2026 onwards. We will be paying accommodation providers directly, and that will create more accountability in the ecosystem for payments on time for accommodation providers. The last element around student accommodation is that there is an acknowledgement that in previous administrations, accreditations may have been granted to accommodation providers that do not match the state of accommodation. We have commenced with the national audit of accreditation for student accommodation, and we will be implementing consequence management where accreditations were incorrectly granted or where accommodation providers did not take steps to maintain their accreditation. Yeah. It is a large-scale project that will take at least 12 months to be able to execute, and therefore we may come across instances, and we have requested, oversight mechanisms, student bodies to report to us where students may be residing in unsafe or uninhabitable conditions so that we can take immediate action while in parallel the national audit process is underway. I am aware as well that a complaint was lodged by the NCOP to the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education on an accommodation in KwaZulu-Natal, and we did receive that yesterday, and we are undertaking the necessary steps to resolve that matter expeditiously. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, I think DDG, that would be the NSFAS input. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wasim. Thank you very much for that detailed report. I think, especially focusing on the accommodation issues, is really informative for the honourable members. Just to quickly talk to the war room before we move to the higher health presentation. I mean, the minister has spoken to this, and the chairperson of the daily war room, I think Mr. Mzoneli, who's our acting DDG for corporate services, I think he is in the room and will be able to answer any questions. But we have found that this works really well. Every week on a Thursday morning, there's a meeting with stakeholders across the sector, engaging with the minister and the deputy ministers and all the DDGs and various organizations. And this really allows for a centralized place for issues to be resolved quickly and any queries to be asked. And then the daily war room resolves institutional issues on a daily basis. But the issues have been numerous. Most of them have been spoken to. And of course, if there are any questions on the war room, we would be happy to answer them. But it is something that really helps just during this intense period between the release of matric results and then the start of the academic year, which can be a difficult time for everybody. And we are also, as a department, participating in the NAT joints. We do receive information on safety and security issues and engage very closely with the SAPs where necessary. The department is working on a memorandum of understanding between SAPs and DHET, which will, I believe, has been signed in order to help to manage sometimes when problems do arise at institutions. But in the longer term, the point of the MOU is to ensure that we identify risks, address them, and mitigate them before they cause big problems at institutions. And so we're able to work quite closely with the police to identify problems that might exist before they come up. Chairperson, I think Prof. Aluwalia is in the meeting. Prof?
Yes, DDG, I
Hi.
am.
Good to have you here. I'll hand over to you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, DDG, and greetings to honorable members, as well as honorable chair and our acting DG and all colleagues. The critical areas for state of readiness for higher health is going to focus on 5 critical areas about psychosocial support, campus safety, early mechanisms of finding problems, crisis response protocols, and of course, institutional accountability that we want this time on gender-based violence and other brutal epidemics. Our acting DG is absolutely right. We have seen a number of critical cases of both gender-based violence, which is rape, as well as suicides or attempt to suicides, not only just in community colleges, but across our universities and also TVET colleges. These things, unfortunately, are things that we need to deal with on routine basis, and I think systems are being put for our state of readiness on these issues. And DDG, if you can move forward, with your permission. DDG, move forward. I think thank you, DDG. That's right. So DDG, just one slide back. Thank you, DDG. So our most important element on the state of readiness is putting a campus safety audit protocol. This is a very essential element, and thanks to our minister and leadership for emphasizing. Our technical task team is meeting in end of March under the leadership of our deputy minister, and will be confirming and finalizing the latest draft of our campus safety audit protocol, which now moves institutions to give and hold and held them accountable on safety audit protocols. It talks about lighting, it talks about policing, campus security, patrolling, vetting of our campus security. One of the rape that we are dealing in a community college at this moment was caused by a security official in the institution. So these are horrific crimes that we don't put protocol and systems in place and vetting in place. We'll never be able to bring justice to our survivors and stop these horrific crimes on our campuses. Next slide. I've covered this. Next slide. So our one of the main issue will be about implementation of these protocols. What we have started is we from 1st of April, we planned road shows in every institution from higher health and massive capacity building workshops for the frontline teams. We believe that rather than only not training management, it's the frontline teams that needs to be put in place, which is the first responder. This is security, residents, staff, SRC, student support services, campus health, counseling units. So I think that's the whole plan to put this protocols back on safety. Next slide. Um, we have, with thanks to SAPS and with the help of South African Police Services, we're using the higher health existing peer education program, which is about 10,000 peer educator, and trying to give them special trainings on building campus policing forums. We believe that a peer-to-peer movement, students holding more of management accountability in terms of lighting, in terms of patrolling will help, and also keep our security supported. So I think that's very important. That has been led by our peer education. We know huge effort put towards that area of state of readiness. Next slide. We are emphasizing this telephone number, which is our 24-hour toll-free crisis helpline in all South African languages, which helps gender-based violence, mental health at a 24-hour basis with the help of back-end support from psychologists, social workers, counselors, full-time placed. We are now also going on a mass campaign of putting these numbers well placed for everyone to be in a position um, towards being able to access this number. We have really saved many lives. I know not media will never talk about lives that get saved, but obviously challenges that are brutal get into our attention and takes our attention. But such numbers exist, such lines exist, such help exists, and we need to continuously promote as a family towards saving more lives through this. And it's 24 hours. Next slide. Next slide. Talked about we are putting systems together. We are now keeping a very important project on disability as a state of readiness, a 24-hour support helpline just for students living with disabilities. We want to more partner and with students in NSFAS as well as in our TVETs and community colleges besides our universities in order to get them into a full supported program. All forms of disabilities, including learning disabilities, are being prioritized. And we're working very closely with social development and Department of Health in trying for assessments, more comprehensive screening program for those people who do not speak about disabilities to come out so that we can provide support. So it's a massive initiative that we are putting infrastructure towards a disability program, a national system that helps in putting this program in place. Next slide. Um, we have also, with support from community colleges and TVET colleges, emphasized on this initiative of our NQF Level 5 QCTO accredited short program on civic education and soft skills. Also keeping in mind this is our local government elections time, we are partnered with IEC on civic education training for every young South African, as long as they have an NQF Level 1, because the eligibility is anybody with NQF Level 1, which means anybody with grade 9, whether you're in CET, TVET, or a university, you get eligible to get into the civic and life and soft skills. And I think that's a massive program. We're driving it predominantly as face-to-face program through a door-to-door outreach program, bringing young people, specifically NEET, using community colleges. And that's our ambitious plan to build civic education in our system. Next slide. Um, as I just to remind everyone, our accredited program is not only endorsed, accredited by QCTO, but UNESCO supported. It's the first in Africa. We are the first in the continent to have launched an accredited civic and soft skills program for every young person as long as NQF Level 1. We are building it in all South African languages, and that's our aim. We've already done with 3, including sign language. It can be done on your phone. It's self-paced, it's peer-to-peer driven, and it's each one teach 10. modules like civic education, our constitution, anti-racism, talking about civic values, loving your country, and saving our democracy is our main essence behind it. But of course, module 2 about gender, mental health, and building emotional intelligence. Everybody in South Africa must understand disability and how to deal with disability, and reasonable accommodation packages, about physical and sexual health, substance. And now we're putting a massive program. I'm actually just came from a meeting with the gambling board on putting a national campaign and a program on gambling, considering a massive addiction that we've seen with data pointing towards gambling addiction from our young learners in our post-school education. And a whole module has been created on drugs and addiction and abuse, and module 7 on energy, JET for every NQF level 1. It's South African owned. We are proudly building it our own, with a whole emphasis on 2 credits on indigenous Africa's climate change, which is the first of its kind in Africa, because we were the first in the world to have built climate education in reality, because this creates new jobs. Of course, financial literacy, social entrepreneurship, with a whole focus on self-employability. Next slide. So we have a certified course on digital literacy and AI. We're working on that for every NQF level 1. Next slide. Building a holistic on civic education with IEC, on new IEC employees that are coming for local government elections, as well as for counselors, civic education training through our CET colleges, a great partnership on state of readiness for the country. Next slide. Also on JET, which we have spoken about. Next slide. So each module gets you accreditation on the 10 soft skills, just to emphasize these critical elements for building young people. So empathy, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, decision making for everyone from NQF level 1 is needed in this country on soft skills. And that becomes a revolution for us and a movement that we're trying to build in this country on civic values. Next slide. Yes, next slide. So different offerings. Yes, we have put an early detection mechanism now. Anything, gender-based violence, partner violence, perpetrator screening, mental health, stress, anxiety, HIV, TB, drugs, alcohol, gambling, pregnancy, contraception, everything has a risk assessment with higher health. We are targeting 1 million South Africans this year through our efforts to be able to do early risk screenings on these important social and health challenges. And as soon as you do a screening, it's done through a QR code. It's done on your simple on your phone. It takes about 2 minutes. You get an automated script and a linkage script that gives you fully on your name things that you need to do and your risk category and linkage to services that remains in your vicinity, which remains an important tool for early detection of gender-based violence and early putting on people on support, so that we can reduce the menace of gender-based violence. What we've seen is with both HIV, with mental health, with gender-based violence, one pattern: if we can test them early, we can screen them early and put them on support early, we can reverse the challenges very quickly and put these students back on education. And that's where we are moving into early detection mechanisms. Next slide. We're almost finishing. We have our technical task team has released 10 protocols on gender-based violence. We are now kind of emphasizing institutions to actually start giving us audits on these protocols. We are partnered with NPA, and we have made a ruling now, as the NPA has put a new Domestic Violence Act and has changed the Act on Gender-Based Violence, bringing our young women in post-school education before 25, calling them vulnerable women, which means it imposes that the criminal justice system takes precedence over our quasi-internal system, which means any case of sexual violence now, from now on in 2026, as we speak, must be given a safe room, brought immediate health and psychosocial support, but immediately transferred to a nearest 220 care center or a Department of Health site, which is SAPS accredited, which we have marked with every campus within 10 to 20 kilometer of vicinity. The student must, or the staff must be taken there, and a proceeding on medical, legal, and criminal justice system must be started to safeguard evidence and bring justice to survivors. And that's our full focus towards these protocols. And as soon as the criminal justice system is started, these same evidence can then initiate a own disciplinary or a quasi system back in our institutions. This way, there will be less interference from management, justice to be brought to the survivors, and evidence to be secured. And we want institutions to align to the criminal justice system. And that's a big movement in partnership with NPA that we are driving, and we're hoping that we all will abide to these ethics and these systems while we look into minute details of staff student travels, resident safeties, private accommodation safety, and we need to put more alignment with NSFAS on safety in residences as students move in. Next slide. This is our technical task team. We're very proud to have Department of Health, Department of SAPS. We have Department of NPA. We have Commission of Gender Equality, survivors, NGOs. So it's a big system that Department of Higher Education has put together in order to ensure that we work as considering we're a microcosm for gender-based violence, we work in partnership with relevant departments to make sure that we get on top of this very difficult epidemic that surrounds our country. Next slide. And similarly, all protocols go through a capacity building, door to door, again on a frontline team. And again, we need to build the systems in residences, peer education program, campus security directors, and gender practitioners. Next slide, which is being put together. Higher Health, 10,000 peer educators are our essence of the biggest strength we have, which is our peer-to-peer mobilization program. We rely on them. And that project gives hope. Both it has helped us to fight HIV, COVID-19, and the same deployment is for GBV and mental health in our system. Next slide. And now going to be for gambling going forward. I've spoken on NPA. Next slide. Almost done. We have put a crisis psychosocial response team, as ADG pointed out to the fact that there was a suicide. There's a crisis response team which is a team of psychologists and social worker that is dispatched to the college or the campus where a suicide or a rape happens to support the family, the survivor, and also the friends and classmates that get equally affected. We had 5 staff deaths recently on a road accident in one of our TVET college, and it shook the entire campus by that. So it takes a week to cover a crisis in practical reality. So we actually now put a team together just to ensure that, considering as much as we need to prevent, we need to be subjective towards responding to crisis on a very quick space of time, as this is a reality of what we deal with as a nation that's still grappling with these epidemics. Next slide. And the last slide is on institutional accountability. Our minister is very serious. Our government is putting emphasis that our vice chancellors, our principals, our leadership in institutions must account. And we need to put a massive M&E system and protocols where accountability on safety audits, on gender-based violence, on our accounting systems to protect our institutions remain high as a priority. I thank you, DDG. I think my slides will be over with last one. Thank you. The slides are over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Prof. Ahluwalia. And Chairperson, I think we definitely went beyond our time, and I apologize for that, Chair. I think it's a lot of information. I hope we haven't exhausted you with it, but I know that the members of Parliament are on the ground and are also aware of issues that have been happening and will want to raise those with us. So, Chair, that's our presentation done. Thank you.
No, thanks very much. With all the presentation, DDG, indeed, as we are correctly saying that it's a lot of information. I will allow members to interact with the presentation as made, but I just want to start just to check. We had an incident here in Parliament where the students during the SONA. I think, I don't know where the institution that we're coming from, whether it's CPUT, on the same issue of NSFAS, ended up being, on the premises of Parliament and disrupt, because those were not good scenes, as if the minister was responsible for the administrative processes. So I just want to get as to what led to that and why was that not being managed before it arrived at that level, because anything beyond that can happen if things are going to be waited until uh, something of that magnitude happened. We saw incidences even in Nelson Mandela University and so on. So I just want to have a recap on those incidences so that we don't continue to have these challenges once we know that through financial years, we will be having student intake and so on, and also around the question of NSFAS. The second one is around the payment, the question of payment of those service providers who are who have accommodating students. What is a turnaround time? Because I'm getting letters that are coming, from these people, and I do not have. I've sent them to the office of the CEO. Up until today, there is no response, and I want to know why. And also the question of overtime, because remember, these are people who are starting their own businesses. Is there deliberate means of ensuring that they are collapsed whilst they are starting their own businesses? Because the question of overtime time in responding and also addressing their challenges is very important. And then also how regular are you going, and then audit, if I may put it there, audit and check what is this accommodation for our students. The other one is around the question of money that the students are utilizing. Those who are benefiting at NSFAS, they are using these monies for other things like your gambling, your online gambling, and so on. How do we ensure that this does not become an issue? Because in my own understanding, if that continues to be allowed, then it's going to be directly, negatively affecting NSFAS. And how can NSFAS and higher health work, cooperate in ensuring that they are combating this growing problem? On the question of TVET colleges, I think it has been a continuous issue. This one of underfunding TVET colleges as compared to your universities, and this contradicts the 2030 NDP plan of government, where the question of skills, at a particular stage will be arriving at least, at a particular number, so that especially to those critical skills, to compete in the economy, and also to be the drivers of the economy themselves, creators of employment and so on. Not only dependent, from employments. I am not happy in terms of the report of the CET on the question of the incidences that took place, especially that took place within their premises, and it contradicts the question of safety, internal versus those who are taking incidents that are taking place. If even today we have not yet apprehended the culprits and then brought to justice, my word is that whilst we are still looking for that one, anything can happen. And what consequences the companies that are taking care of, because they can't be left, alone and then continue to get money on the institutions once they are failing to do their work, especially where the safety is expected to be the most the environment of the institution supposed to be taking place. And also, there is no articulation in terms of the higher dropout of student. You know, it is not articulated. It was just highlighted that maybe we are not being told exactly, one of these issue of safety and other issues are the consequences of the number of students that are leaving our institutions. I will just allow other members on other issues to engage. I saw your hand, Honorable Machobeni, Honorable Mukwele, Honorable Muhlongo, in that order, Honorable Kennedy, and Honorable Finis, in that order, honorable members.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Once more, greetings to you, honorable members.
Can honorable members just show their faces so that we can be known?
Oh, okay.
And then you can take it off.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Oh, Honorable Chair, so itshe yonke mani wavele wasitshela ngoku singekangeni. But again, nonetheless, let me appreciate the presentation by the department. You've covered me, Honorable Chair, the issue of NSFAS and also the issue of underfunding with TVET. And Honorable Minister mentioned the academic support. I just want to check how will this support addresses the challenges faced by students from disadvantaged backgrounds. And also, will this support be equally available in rural and urban universities? And also the presenter mentioned the issue of skills programs. The skills programs that have been mentioned here sound promisingly. My question: has the Department of Higher Education conducted a follow-up visit to TVET colleges to assess the implementation of skills programs? And number two, what monitoring mechanisms are in place to ensure these programs are functioning effectively? The third question: how often does the Minister of Higher Education visit or audit TVET colleges? The reason why, Chairperson, I'm asking this, it's often appears that TVET colleges are being neglected, while most of the focus and attention is directed towards universities. When it comes to TVET colleges, it seems as if it's business as usual, despite the many challenges they are faced. Chair, can TVET colleges truly feel the presence and support of the Department of Higher Education? Because really, Nyan, TVET colleges asizihoyanga as a department, and even this cry underfunding each and every time, besoloko beyikhalela, no one othi to ithuba ezi challenges ziyalungiseka na. Because there are a lot of TVET colleges where I come from, but I never seen any department and check challenges that are facing with those kids. So let me end there, Chair. Thank you very much.
In that order, Honorable Mukwele.
Okay, no, thanks very much, Chairperson. And greetings to you, Honorable Chair, Honorable members in the platform, official from Department of Higher Education, and the official from the Parliament. Chair, maybe let me also make a special greetings to the Minister as he indicated that he will leave the meeting, but also to welcome his overview presentation about the department he's leading on behalf of the Government of National Unity, the most important department that changed the lives of our people. Maybe, Chair, I want to maybe starting with the presentation from the Minister, where the Minister indicating that he really needs the support from us as members of the select or as members of the select committee responsible for higher education led by your good self in making sure that as the department they combat corruption, especially on the issue of NSFAS. I just want to rest assure the Minister, Chair, that as the select committee will make sure that we support the effort of the department to make sure that these corrupt activities, either within the department or even outside the department, are exposed, because these corrupt activity, Chair and honorable members, they are taking the money from assisting those needy and deserving students, which as members of the state committee, as we'll be doing oversight, will from time to time make sure that we'll do that. But maybe Chair, my question and my concern, I've got two incidents. I also heard when they were presenting, they present about the issue of the student accommodation, Chairperson. Because the issue of the student accommodation, Chair, is a thorny issue that I also witnessed in one of the institution of higher the institution of higher learning. For instance, at some point, I happened to be at the University of Free State, whereby generally there is no accommodation for learners. Learners, they are accommodated in some of the establishment in town, whereby some of the establishment you will find that next to them there are taverns. You can see that those accommodation is not the accommodation where the student can live. Because indeed, if we want to take care of the welfare of the student, we must also make sure that the type of accommodation that they are living in, they are the real accommodation. Because remember, those students, when they are coming back from where they are coming, either from the rural or throughout the whole country where they are coming to come there, there are challenges that the minister also indicated that those students are facing. They've got psychological challenges, those assignment and everything. But we must make sure that we assist them. But another question, like as I said, Chair, you managed to cover majority of issues when you were also trying to raise an issue of your concern. But I was just being not comfortable when you were indicating that when we receive complaints from members of the community, because remember, we are the eyes of the department and the eyes of the of the parliament. When we receive complaint from members of the community, in particular regarding the issue of the welfare of the student, we raise issue with the department. There is no response. It's a worrying factor to me, Chair. So I therefore want to request in this meeting that because now we are starting the year, the department, the minister, yes, we can see that he's very enthusiastic to make sure that he's dealing with all the issues that are affecting the student. So I suggest that we need to get the channel that as members of the state committee, I know through us as members, Chair, will use your office to raise all the issues. But we need to also to monitor that when we raise issues, the issue of red tape, to make sure that those issues are attended to. How are we going to deal with that issues? Where we must raise the issue, but also how are we going to monitor that the issue that we have raised, they are attended to? Because really there is a lot of problem. Majority of students who deserve to get NSFAS, they don't get NSFAS, but we don't know who are getting NSFAS. As I'm speaking, Chair, which I'll also want to raise the specific issues with your office, that I've got 2 incidents of students whereby the student went to the university with the pretext that he had an NSFAS, but when he get there, I mean, it was found that they've registered that student. There's one of the students that qualify, that got the merit award, but they registered that student only to find that they said, no, you are not on the NSFAS database. So otherwise, you need to pay for yourself or you need to go home. Because the minister is also, he was more than correct. I understand also Honorable Machuin touched on this, that in the institution of higher education, especially at the university, do we have that real student support? Because let's say if the student is already there, whereby they can't even help that student at that level, meaning that the student he will go back, because in any way, any person who wants funding from NSFAS, it means that that person cannot pay for himself or for herself. So I just want to check that how effective, if they are there, those support institutions in the higher learning, in the journey of higher learning, so that those students, when they are there, instead of if you've got that problem, Chair, you can't concentrate on your studies while they are telling you that no, because you don't qualify, or you qualify, yes you qualify, but on the system, according to us, there is no way we can help you. So we'll have a problem of those students that at the end of the day they will be psychologically affected. But in the nutshell, Chair, I really want to welcome the presentation for Department of Higher Education. The only thing is for us as members of the state committee, together with them, working together with them to make sure that all the issues that they've raised, we make sure that they are implemented to the latter. And thanks very much for affording me the opportunity, Chair.
That order, honorable members, Honorable Mhlongo, it's you.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning to everyone. To the department, thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate it. I think my chair has covered me on most of the issues, but I'll also like to zone into the CET, community colleges. It was noted that you are short of gadgets and internet connections. I'd like to know what's the plan to ensure that we improve in that area, because I see you made a note that you are going to roll out digital skills program, and connectivity is being an issue. So what is the plan, if you can just outline what plans are in place to ensure that you roll out this digital skills program successfully? And then another issue with regards to the case that happened within your premises, can we please have more information on that case? And what was the security procedures? What are the security measures or procedures there? And where was security when that matter happened? Like, can we have more details on the issue? And then I'll also like to know, with regards to over 1,000 students who did not qualify for the NSFAS, I know there's an investigation happening. I'd like to know what's the progress on that issue. Thank you so much, Chair.
Honorable Kennedy. Mayor Kennedy, it's your turn. We can hear you. You can proceed. Leave alone the issue of a video. will you, Luciano, switch off your audio? Matt Kennedy, or in the meantime, will you take over, Honorable Finis?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Just to see that you can see it's me. My first question is in terms of the overall institutional readiness. How much do NSFAS owe institutions, and which institutions are this? The second one is, do institutions only pay back the money owed? What happens to the interest incurred as a result of withholding the money? And then in terms of, have been allegations at Central Johannesburg TVET of monies 5,000 being paid to SRCs to get prospective students admitted. Is the Minister and the Department aware of these allegations? And has the DHET investigated these allegations? And then, what oversight mechanisms are in place to monitor the readiness of each university and TVET college for the 2026 academic year, and how will discrepancies be addressed? And then in terms of the student enrollments, registrations, and admissions, what is the total projected capacity for new student enrollments in universities and TVET colleges for the 2026 year? And how does the capacity compare to the project number of eligible applicants? In other words, how has the system been prepared to accommodate the expected influx of the first year university students and the 171st year TVET students? And then the last one, Chairperson, is, how will university and TVET colleges work with private accommodation providers to ensure sufficient, high quality, and affordable housing for all students? And then in terms of allowances, Chairperson, are there any outstanding allowances? Have any students been defunded? If so, when and how many? And then what is the specific plan for the payment of student allowances for the 2026 year, including the exact payment dates and the payment method to be used for each student? That is all from my side. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Finis. Can Mr. Kula assist man Honorable Kennedy for
Oh,
connection?
okay, Honorable Chair, I'm here. Thank you. Greetings to members and everybody on the platform. Chair, you've said a lot about NSFAS. Focusing on that funding stability. I just want to be clarified about what specific audited steps have been taken to ensure that NSFAS funding eligibility and allowance are finalized before the academic year. And in addition to that, how will the department prevent the recurring issue of delays in payments to student landlords? And my second question is, what measures are in place to support that missing middle student who do not qualify for full support of NSFAS support? Again, there are challenges of high student dropouts in TVET colleges. What steps are being taken to address this high dropout student rate and improve retention of students in TVET institution? And how is the department ensuring that curriculum offers are aligned with the current needs of the industries? Citing the issue of rape, which was mentioned in TVET presentation, there is this higher health initiative. So how is this higher health initiative strengthening 24-hour mental health and wellness support for students across all campuses facing such unfortunate situation? I'll end up there, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, leadership. Honorable Adrianza.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I've switched on my video just so that you can recognise me, or maybe I'm unrecognisable at this stage. I want to discuss specifically the safety and security issue and welcome the presentations that we have received on this. I'm going to switch off my video now, so you have seen me. And I want to welcome all the presentations this morning, but more specifically, the safety and security, and address the situation regarding that. My colleagues have covered NSFAS and everything else extensively. The situation on our campuses, or on most of the campuses, are far from safe. And I'm welcoming the MOU, because a student that's not safe can't study properly. But this goes far and more beyond than just physical safety. It goes to social media safety as well. And when we address this, we must look into phasing and all that when we are going into this MOU with SAPS. And I would like to know, how far along are we with this MOU? Because it must be cross-country. And what does it entail? Because it needs to be done urgently. Then when we come to GBV and rapes, sometimes the victim doesn't want to report for what she goes through after being raped, because in the way she's being treated, she feels that it was her mistake for being raped. I'm putting it now in a very simple term. And we need to, even in the MOU, when the case is opened, we must look into that there be specific persons intervening when a rape case is responded to and reported. The social cluster and the social workers must come in as well, and this must be handled very sensitively. The well-being of our students on all levels are very, very important. And I've mentioned this many a time, that cancel culture on social media is alive and well. And the people will simply cancel you and you will become nothing. That is regarding the safety, physical safety. We must check that the areas where our students stay are well lit, well kept. They can't stay just anywhere. That must form part when we work on this. And I want to know, is that part of the criteria when searching for student accommodation? Because staying in the Northwest, I know that many streetlights are dead, that many a student has been robbed and at knife point because of walking back home and they don't have a cell phone anymore because they have to give their cell phones. So students need safe accommodation, and that is not only a good bed and all that, it's also the area where the NSFAS accommodation is situated. Then apart and all that, what is the plan to address these shortages of safe and dignified student housing in rural areas? And then what is the current status of the comprehensive student funding model? We all know that the missing middle, where students' parents earn money between 350,000 and 600,000 annually, where they have more than one child. It's almost impossible for them to have a child at the university or at a TVET college. What is the status of that funding model? And there's a lot of historical debt, as we know. What's the feasibility of the proposed debt relief fund, as mentioned in the draft student relief bill, and what are the implications for the national fiscus? Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I've done all the questions I wanted to.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Once again, if there is no other member now to want to engage, then I will give it to you, TTG.
Thank you so much, Honourable Chair, and thank you for the really comprehensive questions from honourable members. I'll just double check with. I'm happy that my colleagues are happy that I continue to lead the response. I think if it's okay, I will try and respond on some of the questions that relate to the universities, and then I will hand over to my colleagues from the TVET colleges, community colleges, and then also from some of the requests around inputs from NSFAS and Higher Health. Honourable Chair, in relation to the issues on the parliamentary interference by students, it was students from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. There is an issue of proximity to Parliament, to the parliamentary precinct. So there are students that are staying very close to Parliament that are on the District 6 campus of CPUT, and those students were ended up being addressed by the minister on the evening of after the Sonar debate, after the Sonar speech by the president. It was, in a sense, quite an opportunistic march, but the issues that they were raising related to challenges in placing students in appropriate accommodation at the CPUT, at the university, both on the Bellville campus as well as in the inner city campus. But this had actually pre-existed the debate, and students had been placed already in accommodation. And then the other issue that students at CPUT were raising was the fact that they only got 50% of their book allowance, which the university resolved by ensuring that students got their full allowance, despite the fact that those issues are still being sorted out between the university and NSFAS. So the minister engaged with those students. There is an ongoing process of working with NSFAS to place students in accommodation. As of last week, my understanding was that the numbers of students that were still to be placed were relatively small, but I don't have an update as of today. But certainly that was the issue with regards to the CPUT students. I'm sure when the NSFAS acting CEO comes in, he can also maybe provide some insight into that, as well as on the issues of accommodation, which I think are really, really important. And Chair, a number of honourable members have raised issues about student accommodation, and I think rightly so. It is a really complex issue. In a sense, it's an ecosystem issue that we all need to be addressing across the sector, both in the universities and the colleges, and in particular the issues that are being raised about whether it's a lack of available accommodation, whether it's a lack of safe available accommodation, whether it's issues of affordability, issues of appropriateness in terms of where that Honorable Makwele had raised around where accommodation is based in the Bloemfontein area, for example. And all of those things, we are in a difficult situation and we need to address it on all fronts. The one is to ensure that students are adequately funded to support access if they are NSFAS qualifying students. The other is to make sure that there's proper accreditation and costing going on in relation to accommodation providers. The other is to ensure that where NSFAS is involved and where universities and TVETs are involved, that they're able to engage with accommodation providers to ensure that students are not being exploited in any way. And then, of course, Chair, there's the longer term issues that require the department and the system to really plan for growth in student accommodation. And we do have the student housing infrastructure program, and there are a number of very big projects underway there. There's also a number of big infrastructure projects in the TVET space as well. And unfortunately, I don't have updates on all of that, but we can, I'm sure, provide more detailed information to the select committee on what those projects are. Chair, I'm just making sure that I respond to all the issues before I hand over to my colleagues. We are certainly just maybe on the issue that has been raised by Honorable Adrian Sir in the last input on safety and security. I think these are really welcome, these discussions. I'm hoping that one of my colleagues can give an update on the MOU with SAPS because I'm quite new back into the department and I don't have the details at hand, but others may well do that. But I think that also if Ramnik, when you come in, if you can also talk a little bit to this, I think the issues that the Honorable Member is raising about social media and cancel culture are extremely important. And I would imagine that these are issues that are being addressed through the civic skills program. And if they're not, I'm sure that's something that you are working on. It would be interesting to hear, what you can tell us a little bit about that, because I think it is a really important issue, and I'm sure that it's linked into both the civic skills training as well as to the mental health support that's being provided. Honorable Matabeni, I can assure you that in terms of and I thank you for your questions on TVET, and my colleagues will come in on that. Just in terms of the issues of academic support, I can assure you that we are addressing issues both at rural and urban universities for sure. The department has a number of funding programs through earmark grants that are targeted at all our universities, and there's a number of interventions as well across programs that work across all the universities, and perhaps that's something we should provide more information on going forward. Just in terms of the issue of the NSFAS database, Honorable Makwele, I think that Wasim will be able to talk to that, and the issues on CET, Ms. Fachane and Dr. Buthelezi will address those. Just also to indicate that the private higher education sector, which we monitor and register and provide oversight of, as the department is growing really fast in order to meet some of this demand. But we do need to look at how we will provide sufficient access to higher education over the long term. And this is a size and shape exercise that I am aware the minister and the department will be undertaking starting in 2026. On the allowances, I think Wasim will come in on that. Just in one last question there was a question about the comprehensive student funding model, and just to say that the status of that is that there's been a missing middle loan scheme that has been initiated, and it is housed at NSFAS. We probably need to provide a more detailed update on that. The historical debt in the university system is still quite high, although a lot of that debt is held by students who are not NSFAS qualifying students. Mostly the NSFAS qualifying student debt is addressed through the reconciliations that take place between students, between universities and NSFAS. But this is something that occasionally there are gaps, and Wasim can talk to some of that. In terms of the feasibility of addressing the full student debt in the system, honourable members, this is a really big issue, and it's an issue that the Minister is deeply concerned about. However, what we are doing at the moment is working with the universities to try and quantify and provide the detail on who holds that debt, how many students we're talking about, what levels of debt they have, whether they've completed, are they in the system or out of the system? Have they been able to continue their studies? Are they students who have perhaps exceeded their N+1 with NSFAS? What kind of opportunities are there to resolve some of that debt? It's unlikely that we'd be able to resolve the debt for students who are self-paying students, but it is something that we are busy trying to quantify at the moment so that we can maybe try and get a systemic response to this. It's an issue that is causing the universities a great deal of risk, because most of the debt is held by universities and they end up writing it off at the end of the day. Honourable Chairperson, I'm sorry it takes so long, and I hope I haven't missed any questions. My colleagues will hold me to account if I haven't. And if possible, could I hand over to someone from the TVET branch? I believe it's Mr. Buthelezi. Would you be able to come in and answer some of the questions that were directed on the TVET colleges?
Yes, Prof. Let me try. Though I must apologize to the Minister and all the honorable members that I'm on the road. So in case I'm not audible, and I've also missed some of the question, but I will try to get to start on the first question from Honorable Machobeni around the regularity in terms of how regular do we visit or monitor the TVET College from the branch. That is part of our function in terms of monitoring, but also currently from the ministry. I've just returned yesterday from a state of readiness in Mpumalanga, where myself together with the deputy minister, we were at Ehlanzeni, but also with the visiting Mpumalanga University together with the acting DG. But we have been on that drive, and we currently with the deputy minister, we have just within the few weeks we have visited about 13 institutions. But that's not only end there. From the branch itself, there are activities that we do in ensuring, especially with the transition to occupational programs, that our institutions are ready and they are equipped for the transition to occupational program. So that's one part that I've picked. The other part that is talking to projected capacity of the TVET College. Prof, I can't give the answer on top of my head because I did not see DDG presentation on that. There are figures, and I would rather request that we submit those figures if they are not in the presentation, because I did not see the presentation that you have presented earlier. So I will humbly request that I don't want to mention figures that are not talking to the presentation. Also, in terms of, I'm looking on the other questions that I was trying to note. In terms of the high dropout rate in our institutions, Also, I will request that we provide details so that, because there are programs that we have noted high dropout rate, but there are also programs that have a high retention rates, like programs that are within the occupational training space where there are workplace component, maybe due to exposure to workplaces, we've seen really a good retention rate, but I will prefer to provide a detailed response looking at different programs so that we try to find out reasons for different areas. If we have an area where we raise as a concern, we will engage with our institution, and they do provide some of this reason when we do the monitoring visit. But I will request that we consolidate that and provide it as a consolidated response that talks to the risk areas in terms of dropout, rather than just talking on top of my head. I'm looking on the other. I think those are the questions, Prof, that I was able to pick up. But if there's any, I'm more than willing either to request to make it in writing or response here, because as I've indicated, I'm on the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Buthelezi. And again, apologies to the honorable members. I think we are kind of in the middle still of the oversight season. In fact, Deputy Minister Dr. Dube Ncube is also at UKZN today. So some of our officials are on the road. And I think after this week, probably the sort of registration related oversight will come to an end. And apologies, I missed, Honorable Chair, your question about NSFAS students using their NSFAS funds for other issues. I think this is a really important question that you raise. And again, I think it's also about, I mean, it's partly related to the fact that students are coming from families where there is either very low or no income to those families. And so we do know that students often send their money home. And that again causes problems sometimes of hunger on campus among students. And so there are issues we need to deal with, but also I guess the gambling program, and Ramneek can talk to more of this, is how we work with students in our system to provide them with financial literacy and support. And I'm sure this is something that Higher Health is dealing with, but also something that's happening at institutions. Ms. Fuchane, our acting DG, I think if you're available, would you be able to come in and answer the questions relating to CET? And Chair, we will make sure that some of the TVET questions are answered in response after the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Prof. Lewin. Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. I will be brief but precise in my responses. Let me start with the matters raised by the Honorable Chair, particularly with the incidents that are reported of one of the colleges. Indeed, it is quite an unsatisfactory one. Please allow me to just paint a very brief but clear picture. In my presentation, I indicated that 96% of our community college centers operate from Department of Basic Education schools. This center where the incident happened, it's Sakane CLC. It's a center of Gauteng Community College, and it is Ekurhuleni. It is operating from a school. There's part of the school that is used by the center. There is one security guard at the gate of the entrance of the center. The incident happened in the area of the toilets. And that security guard did not have access to see what was happening at the stage, nor did anyone have access to see what was happening at the stage. There is going to be a report the principal is compiling that they're going to be sending. I do need to indicate that since then, the college has appointed one additional security guard who is going to be doing walkabouts at all time and patrolling the center. Must also indicate that the community colleges do not have resources. They don't have resources for much of not only the infrastructure they need, but the security that they need in operating these centers. But they have made this provision. We are going to request SASITA to assist us with security, not only at this center, but to other centers as well. Our centers are the most vulnerable. They have inadequate security. This is one center that actually has a security. Most of our centers don't even have a one security guard. So the exposure and vulnerability of our students, most of our students are at a risk. So unfortunately, the one security guard could not pick up on this incident, and it was picked up much later after it had happened. The student is still in hospital and is not able at this stage to also assist in terms of identifying the culprits in this regard. The police have been made aware. The police have been to the center, and the police have also engaged with the parent. I've spoken also to the center manager. There is a first name that is known of the student. I've requested the center to go through each and every registration form in terms of trying to identify the perpetrator by the first name that has been identified. That exercise has not at this stage yielded any results. I understand from the center manager as well that the surrounding community has taken this upon themselves, which of course I've cautioned to say they need to allow the police to be the ones to be doing the investigation in terms of trying to find the perpetrators who are still unfortunately at large. On this matter, I also need to indicate the perpetrators are also students at the center, all involved. The young lady and the three male perpetrators, according to the report by the center, they were enrolling at the college for the first time this year. So they're not very well known, and this happened last week during orientation, and the police are still continuing with the investigation. On our side, we are doing the best to provide the support to the student and the family and to the center as well through Higher Health. I do need to indicate, though, that what we need to focus on and have an intervention parallel to this process that I've referred to is really to deal with our male students. And there is a program of Higher Health called Mentalities, which I'm hoping Prof. Aluwalia is going to assist us in rolling out this program to all our community college centers. Because as much as women need to be protected and need to be safe, if men do not conduct themselves in this manner on our women students, then there's no need for women to have extra protection. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do the protection, but we also have to deal with the problem at source. And this is through these interventions like the mentality program of Higher Health that we must make sure that we roll it out to all our male students, and also look at our own infrastructure where we can make sure that it is secure and our women students are kept safe at all times. On the issue of the limited ICT infrastructure and what the plans are, we currently have 77 ICT labs in community colleges, and these are through partnerships and funding that we've received from WNR-CETA, from IDC and Ecolabs. We also have a partnership with RAIN and Centec for connectivity of our centers. Let me also briefly indicate at this stage that community colleges do not have the resources to put in place the required ICT infrastructure and connectivity. As previously reported, 92.3% of the budget of community colleges, which is less than 2% of the budget of the entire department, 93% of that budget goes to the compensation of employees. And for any other operational expenses, the community colleges rely heavily on partnerships and third stream funding that they can get to support. And the last point that I want to raise in relation to the issue of dropout rates. In the PSET sector, community colleges have the highest dropout rates of our students, which is a big challenge that we're trying to deal with. There are various reasons for this, and these range from socioeconomic conditions that the students are finding themselves in. This range to the lack of a dedicated infrastructure, which I've spoken at length about. This range to some of our students are heading households, and some of our students, when they get jobs, especially those who get jobs on seasonal farms, would then drop out and leave. And finally, as I've indicated, there is no financial support for the students in the sector. There are also challenges of food insecurity that we're trying to deal with. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members, and apologies for taking long in my response.
Thank you so much, Acting DDG Fuchane, for that. Really helpful. Just on the TVET stuff, I think we will need to provide comprehensive responses on the issue of, there was a question around skills programs, on the allegations at the Central Johannesburg College, and then the issues of underfunding. I think the difficulty is that those matters would require the DDG to be present. So we'll move on now, I think, to NSFAS. Wasim, if you're okay to come in and answer some of the questions that have been raised.
Thank you so much. I'll start with the chairperson's questions. The chair had asked about unpaid accommodation providers. Throughout the course of 2025, what the accommodation team at NSFAS would have undertaken was provincial and regional visits to meet with accommodation providers in person to tackle all of the outstanding claims emanating from 2024 and 2025. This resulted in about 200 million in additional payments that were made by NSFAS to accommodation providers that were reconciled with them one-on-one. What we did find during that process was that in many instances, accommodation providers were taking on board students without confirming their NSFAS funding status and then lodging claims against NSFAS, which would be against our own policies and processes to be able to pay. And from there, we would have undertaken. We do acknowledge that a few accommodation providers may have slipped through the cracks, and any accommodation provider who may still face an unpaid issue for dating back to 24 or 25 is welcome to get in touch with us. I also, Chair, would have wanted to apologize to say if there's any communication from this committee or from the NCOP that's not been responded to, we sincerely apologize for that. I'll leave my email address and cell phone number with the committee secretary, and we commit that any unanswered correspondence will be answered by the end of this week here. Honorable Mokwele asked about issues at the University of Free State as it relates to accommodation. So just back to the context of the presentation, University of Free State is one of the institutions that manages accommodation independently of NSFAS. However, just from our oversight, it is one of the institutions, particularly at the Kwakwa campus, where there's just insufficient accredited accommodation. And what happens there is that NSFAS pays what we call a direct accommodation allowance. So the direct payment to students, and students use that money to go and find their own accommodation, which is the best interests of safety and security. Of course, through the infrastructure program and through the department support, the university can be supported in rolling out future accommodation that can then deal with this issue, but it may take some time. Just across the country, what we see is about a shortage of 100,000 accommodation beds there. Improvements in how our staff interact with students here, and the ability to problem solve. ultimately, we would like students first and foremost to interact with us through our online portal, and then through our contact center as well. With the last line of support being in person for the more complex types of cases that may be needed, and also understanding that students from rural areas who may not necessarily be able to access the online portal may require that level of in-person support. But I do think our staff are building relationships with both students as well as institutions as we move to also a fully regionalized, decentralized model as well. Just asked about how much do we owe institutions, and again here, just a little bit of context is important. On an ongoing basis throughout the academic year, institutions log claims against NSFAS. They log claims for tuition, they log claims for accommodation, they log claims for allowances. NSFAS settles those claims, and NSFAS has no outstanding claims right up to the end of the academic year 2025. What we do have is that once the academic year is completed, NSFAS runs a reconciliation process with the institution called the Closeout Project. That process was instituted around about 2021. It has resulted in a lot of historical issues and reconciliations. As of the last financial statement date, NSFAS owed institutions about 14 billion rand through the Closeout Project, whereas institutions owed NSFAS about 7 billion rand. So about a net of 7 billion that's owing by NSFAS through that Closeout Project. As it relates to the Central Johannesburg College, we have been receiving periodic reports of accommodation providers who offer bribes to students for taking up beds, who offer SRC's money to be able to place students, who offer NSFAS staff money as well. We do refer all of those cases to our forensic unit. We also have put out communication that accommodation providers who engage in such types of behaviors will be suspended from our platforms. And we really do discourage those kind of behaviors because they created a lot of unwanted things in the ecosystem. In terms of allowances, I think throughout 2025, we had consistency of disbursement. We didn't miss any planned disbursements in terms of allowances, either to the university or the TVET sector. The concept of defunding, apologies, Chair, struggling a bit with my voice. The concept of defunding is something we're trying to root out from NSFAS. There are only certain instances in which a student can be defunded. So that's if a student materially misrepresented their circumstances when they applied for NSFAS, and if information comes to light that suggests a student may have misrepresented it, then there may be a case of defunding based on the outcome of an investigation. Also, we have noted instances where students have already acquired a qualification, and because of the time lag between when qualification data is presented and the start of the academic year, where students do register for a second qualification, which is prohibited by the NSFAS bursary guidelines. In that case, if we detect that situation, that student will be defunded, and we have, through student organizations, clarified that we don't take tolerance on those kind of behaviors. Then if we move to Honorable Kennedy, we did have, I think the NSFAS model probably is one that needs to be looked at, with state allocations really in real terms declining. They've been below inflation for a number of years now. But what we're seeing is that more and more students are qualifying for NSFAS through two things. One is better basic education outcomes, but also the cost of living crisis is pushing more and more households into the NSFAS threshold. And therefore, last year, Cabinet gave us approval to go and consult on a more comprehensive model of support that is a more sustainable funding and financing mechanism. And throughout 2026, we'll be developing and consulting on that model in collaboration with the Department of Higher Education and Training. DDG has mentioned that we do have the missing middle loan fund, although uptake has been lower than expected. That may be as a case of more marketing being required of the missing middle loan fund and creating more awareness of the fund amongst potential beneficiaries. And then Honorable Adrianza asked about safety for student accommodation. I think where we have private accommodation, there are certain protocols which private accommodation providers must meet in terms of amenities, in terms of safety and security. And there's also a requirement that they do provide transportation to and from campus for students. There are instances where, but for any other reason, they may be studying late or whatever else it might be. And I think we do know South Africa does have issues with crime and violence. We do rely on campus security and law enforcement to also provide support to students when they may be walking to and from campus. But procedurally, accommodation providers are meant to provide transport. Of course, the risk is increased in areas where students are accessing unaccredited accommodation. And then I think we have responded to comprehensive student funding model and undertaking policy work and consultation work in that regard. Thanks, DDG. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you so much, CEO, and hope you get better soon. I can confirm that things have been really a lot calmer this year in some ways. I think having people on the ground working with the university colleagues and being able to share information at a campus level with potential students and with the universities and colleges has been really effective this year. So we know the colleagues at NSFAS have been working really hard. And as a department, we are committed to working with NSFAS on the long-term policy issues that need to be resolved. There are many, and Mr. Karim is really accurate on some of the more longer-term sustainability issues that we need to address at the policy level. We're committed to working with NSFAS on this, honorable members. I am going to ask Prof. Ramnik to come in as well. I think there were a number of questions that link to the presentation that he made and the work that's being done, which is not to say that higher health must take all responsibility for dealing with all of the kind of socioeconomic and social problems in our universities and TVET and CTT colleges, but just to acknowledge the important role that they do play. And I think some of the answers he can also give us.
Sorry, DG, what you are going to do now, I'm going to give you 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, that for the response. Because I'm just checking time on the question of time. I don't want us to exceed beyond 1 o'clock.
No problem, Chair. Actually, I'm sure Ramnik, you can do it within 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
2 minutes, Chair.
2 minutes.
Yeah. And thank you, DDG, and thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, Honorable Members. And just to give you a sense of the mental health 24-hour helpline, the crisis helpline, which is totally toll-free. Every year we receive we log 13,000 mental health cases. And it takes about 3 working days to resolve one crisis in general, and then to hand over to the counseling team or psychosocial team that takes around 9 months to repair the damage. That's how severe the challenge is, honorable members. Last year we had 12,828 mental health cases that were dealt just from the crisis helpline. Overall, 35,211 mental health cases, about 9 therapies that one individual eventually gets and in order to get back into education, or the kind of severe damage it has. It's brutal, and the numbers are very scary, as the WHO report on post-school education, which talks about 1 in 4 young people in higher education suffers with mental health. So it's aligning towards what we're seeing on our crisis helpline. Now at least the silence is being broken and people are reaching out. So these are, as much as not the big numbers that we wanted, but 35,000 lives is a huge life. It's a huge number to talk about every year to be protected. Similarly, we're talking about gender-based violence, Just to give you a 24-25 academic year report, 311 cases of gender-based violence cases were reported. At least we moved it out from few numbers to at least in hundreds, so which means we're breaking the silence. 192 cases were on campus and 118 cases of GBV happened off campus. And Honorable Jean is absolutely right that not everybody wants to report. And about on-site counselings were for 689 young women who reported GBV, and only 54 didn't want counseling on campuses and were reported outside. So most of them are partner violence cases, and a lot of them only wants to stick to psychosocial support program and counseling support program, and that's their prerogative. However, we do encourage a lot of connectivity to the criminal justice system as our priority system on the protocol. But there is this huge chapter around how do we encourage more criminal justice system to get involved into this. And I think that's going to be always our biggest area. Regarding social media and bullying, I think it was pointing towards bullying. You're absolutely right, DDG, that the civic and soft skills, which was launched, I mean, which came into birth last year, already has graduated about 12,000 young South Africans on an NQF level 5, where mental health, gambling, gender-based violence, all these issues are pertinent for their learning. And the methodology is each one teach 10, which means they cannot graduate without reaching 10 peers. So the logbooks and the assignment maintained, which is helping a ripple effect towards a multiplier effect of 120,000 people getting to aware about all these pertinent issues that can protect one life from another life. However, we have now started a massive training program on our 24-hour helpline, as well as on our back-end psychology program and social work program. Just to gratefully thank the department for allowing 150 social workers now are all over the campuses in rural, predominantly in rural campuses in TVETs and universities, and also in our urban campuses, both in universities and TVETs. We've also now established about 30 social workers in community colleges. However, we want this number to grow, considering their numbers are too big in order for us to reach every system. But these are on-site systems which helps in reporting quicker, GBV counseling and care support in together. And I think it's also creating jobs for social workers in rural areas to come into campuses, not only learn from the DSD higher health program on mentorship, but also give back to supporting young lives. So I think this is an important area where we need to grow further, and we're trying to raise more funding to create more jobs for social workers back in our campuses, because there's a purely a massive need both in GBV, bullying, and in areas around this. Now with gambling program coming in place, social support plays a massive role again. And we just met gambling board just now, I mean, about a couple of days, and I also met them again today. So the whole aim is to put a national framework and a program on gambling addiction. We will need NSFAS and, of course, our CTES to continuously support this project while we go massively into this gambling addiction program quite deep. And this will be more peer-to-peer driven, civic and soft skills driven, and creating more risk assessments on gambling addiction, very similar to how we handled the whole challenges of substance, drugs, and alcohol addiction program, early risk assessment, and putting them to early social care in that regard. Should I have missed any questions? We are also just a line on transforming mentalities. Each institution is having now men's forum established purely for men peer educators to be established, trying to identify perpetrators to introspect, and men is a massive challenge. So transforming mentalities, and just proud to say that South Africa is the second global nation, first in Africa, to adopt the UNESCO's transforming mentalities, showing our seriousness around this matter. However, these are just subjective issues till we get this thing in control. Thank you, DDG, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And thanks to all the colleagues. Again, honorable members, I'm sorry about the gaps in our responses on the TVET colleges. Unfortunately, our DDG is not present. But over to you, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
No, thanks very much, TDG. I think I must take the last part of what you were saying. The question of gaps. In fact, to the whole process, I mean, the presentations, honorable members have identified the serious gaps in terms of how the presentations were made, and also they said I must just raise it that they were not so happy on how it was done. It was but due to the to the progress that they want to see, because they didn't want to reject the presentations or in fact even the meeting itself, but they continue to engage. But what we'll request is further written responses to all the issues that were raised. That will be able to fill those gaps that were identified, even in terms of the information, because the issue of DTG not being here, at least the communication was raised a little bit, longer for purposes of preparation, so that if anyone, one person that will be needed for purposes of information, that person can pass it through to another person, so that you don't have this kind of situation. We will be also the question of direct responses on direct cases. There is a case that was not responded and to the one that it was sent to my office. The letter was sent to the office of the CEO. The CEO it was not didn't respond up until today. That is not the only case. I can imagine, general populace there, where they are raising their cases. How are they being dealt with? So I'm pleading that in the response, I hope that the email that was returned from my office will be immediate. It can't take more than 7 days, because remember we are also going to these places. I can't go there again to say I don't know what is the response. Can that be attended to immediately, so that we are not being rendered useless, by not giving information, by not giving responses, especially when those responses are returned to our offices, because ours is both political and constitutional mandate that we are expected to be carrying. You can imagine in your oversight, when you come back now, you have to run or you change the route that you are using, because there is nothing that you have brought to that particular constituency. So I'm pleading with the department at different levels that when issues are being raised, they must be taken serious, not for the purposes of ticking the box. It is not acceptable. We are not going to keep quiet on that one. And then also on the question of number of questions that were raised by honorable members, I'm pleading that we are going to be following them. So can we be given written responses within 7 days? Because if we are not getting that within 7 days, we will know that it was just a question of formality, and even the commitments that the minister have made to us, we will take those as just for the meeting. So I doubt very much if we are supposed to be proceeding the way that we are doing as the select committee and with the department. So I will plead, I'm humbly pleading that let us get those written responses within this period of 7 days. I know we might make a commitment now, but beyond that, we might not be getting, but we will be in contact with the minister if raise also our dissatisfaction as we are currently doing. We accepted his apology. Honorable members, I think let us engage further beyond this meeting when we receive this, because if we are not addressing these issues, our role and authority that is mandated by the Constitution will be meaningless to those people that are looking upon of us, those constituencies that are looking upon of us in terms of addressing their issues and challenges. So by those few words, I want to thank everyone who attended the meetings, and then also the presentation. Indeed, hopefully that will be improving on our next engagement. It must not take long, especially the one that we spoke about with the Minister of SITAS. But really, we need to close the gaps that we have identified. If there is no other issue, Mr. Kula, that we might need to feature in our agenda, then we can close our meeting. Am I correct, Mr. Kula?
There is, Chair, Dr. Mtumbeni will share the draft program now, Chair, with the committee
Okay,
members.
sorry about that.
You can
The
release the department so
yeah,
long, Chair.
the department is released. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Dr. Mtobeni, you can proceed.
Good morning, good afternoon, Honorable Chair, and good afternoon, honorable members and colleagues. Honorable members, this is the draft program for the first term. This needs to be adopted by members so that members are aware of the meetings that are going to be taking place during this term. So as members can see, today is the 24th. We've already had a meeting with the Department of Higher Education and NSFAS. And then the next week, there's a NCOP strategic planning session that is taking place. We are still waiting for the venue to be confirmed. And then on the 10th, it will be a joint meeting, a virtual joint meeting between the Portfolio Committee on Sports, Arts and Culture and the Select Committee, where the members will be meeting all the MECs of the 9 provinces. And they are supposed to inform members about sports infrastructure as well as sports programs within their respective provinces. So far, we've received about 3 presentations. We are still waiting for another 6 presentations for the remaining provinces. Once we have all the 9 presentations, we will share them with honorable members. And then on the 17th of March, the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape will be doing their first, the committee will be doing the first follow-up following the oversight visit in October last year. So they will be, the members will be tracking on the work that the department has been doing since the last oversight. And then on the 24th of March, it will be a joint oversight with the Select Committee on Social Services in the Free State. And I will also fly the draft program for members to consider for that oversight as well. So that is the entire program for the first quarter. So maybe Chair can facilitate the adoption of this program. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable members, that is the program. I think it was already sent to us. If there are any issues before we can adopt it, I can see Honorable Adrianse, Honorable Mukwele.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just moved to adopt the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Adrianse. Honorable Mukwele.
No, thanks, Chair. Maybe before I second Honorable Adrian says that we are noting the program, but I just want to check something with the officials that remember last year when we spoke about the issue of the study tour of the study group. I don't know whether it will fall in the next term or it will fall in this term, but I just need that clarity. But other than that, the program is in order. I second. If maybe after if I get that clarity, then I don't have problem to second the program as presented. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mukwela. I think let's agree that the program has been adopted, is duly adopted. Can Dr. Mtombeni just the highlights? I know that you made a presentation on the study tour. Just to highlight the progress so far in terms of the study tour. Can you just, because I know that you might not be ready for that, but just, hence I'm saying those are just highlights.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. No, I'm actually ready about that. I was going to bring it up after presenting the next the oversight program. So yes, but I'll just give members feedback now. Currently, we have applied to go to Finland in the month of July this year. The the proposal is sitting with the Department of International Relations. They will be giving us feedback by the end of this week. The reason why it's July is because in Finland, that is the hottest period of like the weather conditions within the country are favorable during that month. And also, it will also be a constituency period of the committee during the month of July. So there won't be any plenaries during that time. So the Department of International Relations is just communicating with the country and our embassy in Finland to see whether the country will be able to host us within the first 2 weeks of July. So hopefully by the end of this week, we will be giving the committee feedback. If not by the end of this week, we will present it at the strategic planning session next week within the NCOP. So definitely that is currently underway. Yes, Chair. And then, but then if there's any more questions, I'm more than willing to take them as well. And then lastly, honorable members should have received the draft program for the Free State oversight. This is according to the APP of the committee. So the oversight will be shared with the Select Committee on Social Services within the Free State provinces in the Mangaung metropolitan municipality area. And according to the APP, the oversight is supposed to focus on higher education, science and technology, sports, arts and culture. So this time around, there won't be any basic education. This again is according to the APP. However, honorable members are more than welcome to give input on this program. It is not a final program, it's just a draft. Members can actually, if members want to visit, for example, the University of Free State, they are more than welcome to suggest that, or any other university or TVET college, but however, within the Mangaung area so that we avoid long distance traveling this time around within the province, given that we only have 2 days to do the oversight as the Select Committee. So on day one, it will be on Monday, the 23rd of March, and it will be the Motheo TVET College, where members will be doing oversight at the main campus in Bloemfontein. And members will actually be receiving a presentation by both the head of the college on the intake statistics, human resources, student success rates, and all these other areas of importance. And then also the department of the national department, because higher education does not have a provincial department. So the DG or DDG will be coming to present on the state of TVET colleges within the province. So they will give an overview and now dissect more into the provincial work, where else today they were talking more at a national level. And then also the committee will engage the SRC, and then there will be lunch. And then after lunch, the committee will now focus on science, technology, and innovation, whereby they will be visiting the Central University of Technology, where the Vice Chancellor will welcome the committee and will take the members through to the Center for Rapid Prototyping and Manufacturing. So this is more like 4IR, 3D printing, And members will also have an opportunity to engage with the scientists and engineers within the center. And the members will also visit the infrastructure and the labs within the university and the center at the university. And then also there will be engagement on how the committee can actually facilitate the South Africa to be the manufacturing hub of 3D printing for IR science and innovation within the country. And then on the second day, the members will engage. Members have already met with the Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality regarding the sports infrastructure. However, this will now be the physical visit of the physical infrastructure for members to go and see the state of the swimming pool, Arthur Nathan Swimming Pool, Free State Athletic Stadium, and the Free State Rugby Football Stadium, as they have currently lost international accreditation to host any events. So it's important maybe for members to engage as to what is happening and to see the state of the facilities and to engage the municipality on what is doing to regain the international accreditation. And then again, to bring to the attention of members, the Mangaung Metropolitan Municipalities is currently under Section 139, and it is under the control of the national government, if I remember correctly. So the Minister of Cooperative Governance will also be invited to come and brief members as to what are they doing with regards to the state of sports facilities within the municipality. These venues, by the way, they were recommended by Honorable Briet for visitation, and then members will also engage the stakeholders like the federations within the province to engage them on the facilities as well. So this pretty much in a nutshell what will be taking place. But then again, this is a draft. We haven't engaged any external stakeholders. This is for the committee to consider. And if the committee maybe wants to visit alternative venues, you're more than welcome to suggest that, and we will amend the program accordingly. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think you've covered both the issues that have been, I think the first one and also this one. Then I will just allow honorable members I see Honorable Adrianza, your hand is up. Any other honorable member? Yes, Honorable Finis. Thank you very much. You can proceed, Honorable Adrianza.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I would just like to clarify on this. This will mean, if I look at the program, and I perused it before the meeting, that we will have to travel on the Sunday again. And so to enable us to start on the Monday at 7:30 or 8:30. So I just want to have that clarified, and I understand the necessity of splitting the two committees, that we're doing a joint committee oversight sort of thing, that 2 days for the one, 2 days for the other. But we must be cautious of eating into our constituency days, which is normally Mondays. It's become the norm and not the exception. So I just want to ask regarding that. Thank you.
Honorable Finis.
Mine is just to propose for the adoption of the program, Honorable Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Finis. And Honorable Mukwele.
No, thank you, Chairperson. Mine is to support Honorable Finish to adopt, but my only last bite that I want to make, Chair, logistical arrangement. That you see now we have time, we are adopting program in time, but when coming to issue of the logistical arrangement, I'm suggesting that maybe the officials, I know that they will be complaining about the issue of agency and coming whereby you will end up being brought into the issue that is not ours. So my appeal to officials is that let them timeously try to make sure that they deal with logistical arrangement. But other than that, Chair, I don't have much to say on the proposed program. I support Honorable Finis that we adopt the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Can we respond to Honorable Adrian's issue talk?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. So what happens when we share the week is we either take the Monday off or the Friday off. So maybe members can suggest on that one. Because if the Social Services Committee does its work on Wednesday and Thursday, it means members will now be able to travel from Friday morning or Thursday evening. So we can maybe shift the days to Tuesday and Wednesday, and then social services Thursday and Friday. However, it will mean now members will now travel on Saturday back home. So that can also be played around with. But thank you very much, Honorable Member, for bringing that to our attention. And maybe also in the future, we'll maybe refrain from using Monday as one of the oversight days. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mukwele, Honorable Adriansa.
No, Chair. In fact, maybe I was saying that we because Friday normally it will be good for us. Remember, Friday we still have to go back earlier for the constituency work because remember, as members of parliament, we're expected to attend other constituency matters like funeral and others. So I suggest that in the meantime, because it's not happening every month, every Monday. I'm not saying that I'm chatting away the concern from Honorable Adrias. I mean, that is a right concern that in most cases, Monday is a constituency day, but it's not happening most every Monday. It's only on Monday where we need to go for oversight, we need to travel, so that it is Friday or even Thursday evening, we make sure that all of us as members of the parliament, we go back to our constituency. But I really want to say, let's try to just to be patient on this only that is not every Monday. Thank you.
Honorable Adriansa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I dotted down a message in the chat regarding this. I raised it for going forward. I don't have a specific problem for this time round because it's a due committee oversight. But I needed to raise it because mostly Sundays it's the only time we're actually at home. So that's why I raised it. And the fact that it's scheduled for Mondays as constituency days, but I fully understand the issue, and I support the fact that we travel back to our constituencies to be in our constituencies at least on a Saturday as well. So there's just another question I would like to raise, and that is: are we expected to travel by road? Are we going to fly to Bloemfontein? Or I can't remember the new name, but there. Hasn't that logistics been finalized or thought of as yet? Thank you.
Okay, the logistics have not yet been finalized, but this is for the purposes of adopting the program. But the logistics are going to be continuing, immediately from now. I think due to distances that we are coming from, indeed we'll be flying, and then to go to localities. Indeed, we'll be using transport unless I'm missing anything at talk. You can come in on that one. But it's noted, Honorable Adrian, so what we are raising is going to be looked at, and also Honorable Mukwele, it's important also what we are raising. There will be the question of balancing between the two. So I think it's assisting also in terms of us moving forward as a committee. How better can we rearrange and so on. So thank you very much, honorable members. Doc, is there anything that you want to say?
Not yet, Chair. Just on the traveling, I think that will once be sorted once the committee has adopted this program. And we've also communicated with the province, and then our committee assistant will also engage the travel agency once we are done with this meeting. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Doc. And honorable members, I think we concluded our, am I correct, Mr. Kula? Please guide me. Is Mr. Kula,
Yes,
you can
Chair.
see-
Yes,
Yes,
Chair. We completed. There's nothing else, Chair.
thank you very much. I think that concludes our business for today, honorable members. Thank you very much for your contributions and also for your patience. Our meeting is adjourned, and also thanking the support staff or support staff that is always be there with us. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.